Hello and welcome to On Point. This episode features a conversation between Rich Demarco, Associate Athletic Director and radio play-by-play announcer for the Army Black Knights, and Jeff Monken, head coach of Army West Point football. Jeff Monken has an accomplished background in football, both as a coach and a player. Before joining Army West Point football, he was the head coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles football team, and prior to that, served under Paul Johnson as a running backs coach and special teams coordinator at Georgia Southern, Navy, and Georgia Tech. To date, Coach Monken has served 8 seasons at the helm of Army West Point football, the 37th individual head coach in program history. His career coaching record stands at 85-55 as a head coach, with a 49-39 mark at Army. In this episode of On Point from the West Point Association of Graduates Broadcast Network, Coach Monken talks about the interview process for the Army West Point head coach position, growing the football program as a leader, and the improvements to come for Army football in the future. Coach Monken also talks about the highly anticipated Michie Stadium Preservation Project. Now, please enjoy this interview between Rich Demarco and Coach Jeff Monken.
Rich Demarco here, spending a few minutes with the head coach of the Army football team. That is Jeff Monken. Jeff, always great to spend some time with you, really. Always great catching up about Army football and where you are at and we're at with this Army football program.
Always good to see you, Rich, and I'm glad we get to see each other pretty much every day up here, but always excited to talk Army football and share that with everybody out there that's interested.
And we have constituents, as we say, throughout the Hudson Valley, across the nation, and around the world every time we sign on across the Army Sports Network. And Jeff, we're going to focus on this year, the future. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you got here to West Point. But first off, this 2021 Army football season, 9 wins, 5th bowl game in 6 years, 4th bowl game victory, the dramatic win over Air Force down in Arlington, Texas, and of course, the bowl win in the final seconds over Missouri. As you look back here, less than 2 months out since that dramatic win in Fort Worth, how do you evaluate? How do you look at this 2021 season?
Well, I kind of look at it in the rearview mirror. I'm not one that stands around and smells the roses very often. I really look forward to the next season, and it was a great job by our players finishing that bowl game and finding a way to win. It was a really hard-fought game, a talented team we played, and obviously for our seniors to finish their season and to finish their careers with a win like that was really big. And I was particularly proud of them, proud of a guy like Jabari Laws, who's part of that senior class. And what a great job he did leading us down the field on that final drive. And so it's a great memory for them. And for the rest of the guys that are coming back, for me and our staff and our players, just hopefully a springboard into this next season and some confidence and some excitement about the 2022 season.
2021 finished up year number 8 for you at West Point as the football coach. When you look ahead to 22, where are the aspects of the program you feel need to be improved to constantly, moving forward, right? If you're not getting better, you're getting worse, that you want to be able to take this program to still a next level?
I don't know if there's probably enough time in this podcast to talk about all the things that I feel like we need to do and improve on and ways we can grow, but certainly just how we prepare our team. The bottom line is the players have to go play the games, and we haven't won them all yet. We'll continue to try to improve as a staff and the things that we do from an operational standpoint, day to day, whether it's in the weight room, the training room, how we outfit our guys, and then the way that we coach them. We prepare them in meetings and coach them out of the practice field and have them ready to go, the schemes that we present to those guys. Just the things that we can do as a staff that we can control that give our players the best chance to succeed. That's our job. And so we're going to continue to look for ways to do that better.
And Jeff, you mentioned 2021 and how proud you were for this football team, of course, moving forward to 2022. And you've spoken multiple times on how important your senior class, your captains, have been to the success of Army football over these past 8 seasons. Here in the spring, as you're ramping up for 22, next month you'll start spring ball. Mat drills coming up probably sooner than later. What is the impact that senior class? They're done with their eligibility. What impact are they going to have here in the spring to still help mold these now current leaders, not the future leaders, the current leaders of this team in the spring? How does that work with your program and the impact of these great firsties?
Well, I just think that the model that they were as leaders is a great example to the guys that are on our team that are returning. I thought we had really strong senior leadership, and that was incredibly positive for our program and for the junior class that'll be leading this team next year. But a lot of those guys still come around, and they'll have a very vested interest in how we're going through the more early morning workouts and spring ball, and because they played and they feel probably still a sense of responsibility and the legacy that they've left and what that'll mean to the next class. I think just having them here on campus and having them around as they do, and several of those guys are going to return as AIs or athletic interns, our equivalent of a graduate assistant. They'll come back and help us in the fall. So a lot of those guys are going to be around all spring, really trying to learn their job and what it means to be a coach.
Jeff, I want to dial it back with you to you coming on board to West Point here, December of 2013. So, of course, you worked with Paul Johnson for a very long time, various stops as an assistant coach. You were highly successful at Georgia Southern, leading that program in their transition from FCS to FBS. Army parts ways with Rich Ellerson in December of 2013. You realized the Army job is open. What's your first reaction? How did everything start to come together?
It was a phone call from Paul Johnson. I believe that Boo Corrigan had reached out to Paul to talk to him about the open job here and just who they might be interested in talking to, and maybe for some recommendations from Paul. And I think they probably were looking for someone that had some academy experience and certainly some experience with this offense. And I know that Paul talked to Boo about probably a number of candidates, me being one of them. And then really the next step was I had the opportunity to talk to Boo and talk to him about the job, and then have a chance to visit with he and General Caslin and several members of General Caslin's staff face to face. And that's how it got started and how it went.
How did you view the Army job before you were the head coach? You're at Georgia Southern, right? You're successful, FCS semifinals. You're defeating Florida in the swamp. How did you view the Army job when it came open?
Frankly, probably like everybody else in college football that's coaching another team, the focus is completely on the team that you're a part of. And not that I didn't pay attention to the academy jobs. I certainly did, having had experience coaching in an academy. We had coached at academies and were coaching elsewhere, had an interest in watching those games. But I had worked with Coach Ellerson when I was a graduate assistant at the University of Hawaii. Several years prior, I had worked with Rich and knew him well and had great respect for him as a coach. And so watched or paid attention because of that. But Rich, when we're doing our jobs, it'd be like asking me how much I pay attention to the Georgia Southern job right now, or the Georgia Tech job, or their programs, I should say, or any of the others I've worked for. It's hard to do that. It's hard to really follow what's going on. And I'm interested in this job, the one I've got right now, in this program. This is the only program that matters to me, is the Army program. So I kind of felt that way when I was working at Georgia Southern in 2013 while the Army season was going on. And I do know that when I was approached about the job, I had immediate interest just because of this institution and what it means to our nation and the challenge that it was and what it means to be a leader at an institution like this.
What was the whole interview process like? General Bob Caslin, I know there were senior members of the United States Army that were part of it. What was it like for you who had experience coaching at an academy? And I'm sure you weren't surprised at how important this job is, this position was to all the members through that branch of the service.
Well, I'd interviewed for the job once before. So in after the 2008 season at Georgia Tech, I had interviewed for the job. And so I had at least some idea about the process and what was important to the people here and what they wanted in a football coach. And it was really an interesting process, very personal, which I liked. That's not always the case with interviews for jobs in general and coaching jobs. Very thorough. It was a pretty lengthy first meeting with Boo and with General Caslin and the staff there. And then there were follow-up interviews, both in person as well as on the phone. And so it's very thorough, which I really appreciated. It was a great sense of professionalism with everything that was going on. And so as a candidate, that gave me confidence that the academy was really serious about this hire and who they wanted to be their next coach.
So, Jeff, you come on board late December in 2013. You knew what it was like coaching at an academy as an assistant, of course, under Paul Johnson, and you knew how unique things are in regards to getting things done and doing more sometimes with less, selling the academy and all of its positives. What did you evaluate needed to be maybe some of the biggest things you had to implement or change to get this program going in the direction that it eventually ended up going?
A lot of the questions that I had were addressed during the interview process, and that's probably what made it so interesting. Is I didn't accept the job and then have those conversations with Boo and General Caslin. I had those conversations before accepting the job and really talked in detail about some of the things that I felt would be important in supporting a winning team here, and asked for some feedback on just what was being done currently and what General Caslin and Boo felt could be done to position the program for success. And I think that was important to have those conversations. It gave me both an idea of what was happening and the willingness of being able to do some other things in order to support the program. But I think it also was valuable for the academy to hear from me and to hear what I felt would be important. And it gave us both things to think about and consider in how we would move forward together and get it done.
So, Jeff, first couple seasons, 2014, 2015, in building the program, maybe it wasn't showing up on the win-loss ledger, but there were definite progress getting made. When you think back to those seasons, and as we mentioned, you want to look at them in the annals of Army football and wins and losses, they're not among the top years, but that's really the seeds and how you were really building this program. What were the biggest strides you think early on, despite the final score struggles that were being made within the Army football program?
The first year was a struggle just because I was new, and we had a lot of veteran players that certainly had been recruited by another staff and had maybe been accustomed to doing things a certain way. And I was asking them to do it a different way and to believe in my vision. And it was hard because we didn't get immediate results and we didn't have the victories that we'd hoped for, but we had some good wins that year and had a battle at the end against our rival, and at least felt like we had made some progress throughout the year to get ourselves positioned to be competitive. And then the second year, we didn't win as many games. We won half as many games we won the first year, but we were so much better as a football team. We were much younger. We played consistently 20-plus freshmen in every game, and we lost 10 games, but 7 of them by a touchdown or less. So we could see that we were there, we were competitive and had chances to win, and I think that gave our team some confidence that the next year we'd find a way to turn those close losses into victories. And that's kind of what happened. The next year we came out and really had great success to start off with, started out 3-0, and then we're up and down a little bit. We were at one point 5-5, but had a great finish and finished with 8 wins and a bowl win and breaking the streak. And that really got the program going, and I think was the big spark of confidence to position ourselves for future success.
And you mentioned, Jeff, that 2016 breakthrough, 8 wins, first bowl game in 6 years, breaking the streak, as you mentioned, over Navy, that 21-17 victory down in Baltimore. At that point, where do you, and just talking holistically as a program, after you break through and you do what folks are like, oh, that's what has to get done, right? Beating Navy, winning that game, of course, next year going on to win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. How do you, with your leaders, I guess is what I'm trying to get to, raise the bar and realize, hey, that's not an endpoint, right? Beating Navy isn't the endpoint. Beating Air Force isn't the endpoint. We got to keep growing this program. How do you go about doing that as a leader?
Don't make it about the wins and losses. It's not. It's about trying to maximize who we are and maximize the potential of each individual and maximize the potential of the team and try to be as good as we can be. And so I think that's a challenge every day and every week. Every new game is an opportunity to improve and to measure ourselves against who we were the previous week or the previous season. And so I think that's important to have that challenge rather than just having it be about, a win or not.
You're so focused on senior classes, right? Whenever we're having conversations and it's, hey, this many wins for a senior class. Of course, last year's senior class set the Academy record with 35 victories as a senior class. What have each of these groups, I'm sure it's like probably kids, you can't choose one over the other, but what have they meant to you over the years? Whether they were senior classes that you came in and they were recruited by someone else, or ones that have been with you since they were sophomores in high school and maybe you visited them for the first time. What kind of impact have these senior class groups had on you?
I think each of those senior classes impacts the program. And I think that probably every senior class impacts this institution in their own unique way. And so it's a challenge each year for those guys to set a standard, carry a standard, I guess. There are expectations in the program. They've got to be the standard bearers. And it's difficult to lead peers, but that's what they're tasked with doing each year. And so I think just measuring probably their senior year and their senior seasons and were we able to maximize who we were as a team. And I think that's the challenge each year. And doesn't mean we've got to win every game to feel like they've led successfully, that they've done a good job with maximizing who we are as a program, who we are as a team. But I lean on those guys. I think they're absolutely critical to the success of the team. And without strong, positive senior leadership, I think it's difficult to have a very successful season. You can win some games, but to say it's a success, meaning you maximized who we are, that's the challenge for each new group that comes in.
You talk about senior classes, and what strikes me is almost bookended is Jabari Laws being celebrated at the end of the Georgia State game for coming in and making this miraculous comeback for multiple knee injuries. And then the bookend of the end of the bowl game, a minute 11 down the field and the Cole Talley field goal. So it's, again, a story within a story of a senior class makes them all the more special. It really does. We know we have a lot of West Point graduates listening to this podcast. Jeff, the feedback, I'm sure you receive encouragement. I'm sure you receive some feedback, maybe you would say, from West Point graduates and fans who care so much about this program. What does that mean to you? I guess it might not be surprising, right, to open your inbox and maybe you see some folks that have some words to share.
I value all of it because it's people that care. Whether they're encouraging or criticizing, it's people that care. They care about the program. And it's good to know that we've got a lot of people that do care about us and about our players. And they want to see us be the best we can be and represent this academy and the Army in a positive way. And I can assure you that that's our goal every day for me, for our players, our staff, is we want to be a great representation of our institution and our men and women who serve.
And Jeff, we spoke with Mike Buddy on this podcast a few months ago, and you have been very clear about his leadership and how much you enjoy working with Mike Buddy. Could you just share what kind of impact he's had in really helping you in guiding this football program as he is guiding the athletic department?
Mike's outstanding. He has been a great support to me personally, to our football program. He finds a way to get to a yes if we need something, and it's not easy. When we need things, we need facilities, we need personnel, ways to support our team to help us win or to enhance the experience for our players. he wants to find a way to get to yes. And he's always positive and always supportive, and just have really appreciated his leadership and really enjoying working with him.
Jeff, I want to spend a couple minutes here as we're wrapping up about something which has so many Army fans excited, graduates, people associated with Army athletics, and of course the Army football team. That's the Michie Stadium Preservation Project. And I know it's something that's going to revitalize the East Stands, really provide just a tremendous experience for folks and fans coming out to games. And just with you, the impact, and impact has been talked about for fans, for club seat holders, but what about for a team and players from your perspective? What will the Michie Stadium Preservation Project do for Army football, for your coaches, for your players, and their experience?
I think it's just going to make the experience better for everybody, for those fans that come out, the people that are going to have the opportunity to view the games from a whole different perspective in the East Stands, and the boxes and the things that'll be there to have the Corps of Cadets be able to sit from one end zone to the other, the whole length of the field, which I think is going to be fantastic. And I think the feel of the stadium, it is going to feel a lot more intimate and closed in and modernized. And I think our guys will be really excited about it. It's a stadium with tremendous history, a National Historic Land, but it's going to have a 21st century feel to it with this new facility. And it's going to enhance everything for our players, the areas that they currently use. And just to be in this stadium with a brand new look will be exciting for everybody.
Oh, that'll be very special. MichieStadium.com, the website where you can get involved for our listeners in the Michie Stadium Preservation Project. Jeff, wrapping up here, it's always great to spend time with you. And I'll tell you, football's a 12-month sport, right? What's going to be mat drills, going to be spring ball here in a couple weeks. You're just in the midst of recruiting. It's constantly stuff going on.
It never lets up. I always chuckle when people ask me what I do in the off season, and there really isn't an off season. We just keep pressing the gas pedal. So we went from this recruiting cycle and jumped right into the class of 2023, getting prepared for spring practice. We'll start our pre-dawn workouts in late February, take those into March, and then we'll have spring practice and back out on the road, spring recruiting, and summer gets us into camps and visits by prospects to campus. And before too long, we'll be back in preseason camp with the arrival of our freshmen and the workouts all summer with our current team. So it never lets up, and the clock just seems to run fast all the time. But we're enjoying it, and we're excited about this coming season. We're excited about the recruiting class that we've got coming in that's going to join us, and really looking forward to 2022.
Jeff, as am I. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you down the road.
You got it, Rich. Beat Navy.
Sounds good to me. He's Army head coach Jeff Monken. I'm Rich Demarco. Thank you to each and every one of you listening on today's podcast.
On Point is a production of the WPAOG Broadcast Network. Please take a moment to rate and review the show, and join us each week for a new episode. Thank you for listening.